All right, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Bava Basra Daf Kuf Samach Aleph, and we're starting about three-fourths of the way down on Kuf Samach Amid Beis. The first word on the line is Lishtaros, and the word that we're starting at is the second word, which is Heichan Eidin Chosman. Now we were discussing this concept of a get makushar. You'd write a little bit, you'd fold a little, you'd fold outward a little bit, and then you'd stitch it, and then continue writing, and you'd where would you sign was the shaila that we're asking right now. So we'll start here, and then we're going to go to the bottom of Kuf Samech Aleph Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. As you can see, these blot are very short on the Gemara side, very heavy on the Rishonim. And obviously, you'll see that there's some technical aspects to this about how we would sign a get back in the day. Today, things are pretty different, obviously. Kamuvan, things are very different. So it says the Gemara, three-fourths of the way down on Kuf Samech Amud Beis. Heichan Edim Chosman, where would they start? Where would they sign on this get makushar? On this get where you'd write a little bit, fold and stitch, and then write more, fold and stitch v'chule. Rav Huna Amar ben kesher lekesher. In between, you'd sign it inside the fold. Seemingly, that's what it means, ben kesher lekesher. And if you take a look at the Rashbam, he foreshadows of something that we're going to discuss. V'kasal kadaita chashta mibifnim. It seems that it'll be like inside the fold, such that if you unstitched it, it would then be present on the front of the page. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar achore haksav uchneged haksav mibachutz. Behind what was written on the front of the page, it would be written on the back of the page. So seemingly, it's going to be all the way on the back of the page. So, but what the Maila of this sheet of Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba is that it is written directly opposite the line. The signature is opposite the lines that you're trying to verify. Okay. So it says the Gemara. Now we're going to ask some questions against Rav Huna's shita. Amar le Rami bar Chamal Rav Chizda le Rav Huna de Amar ben Kesher lekesher. According to the shita Rav Huna, that the signatures in the get makushar are inside the folds of the paper. Kasal kadaitin ben Kesher lekesher migavoy. I might have thought, says the Gemara, that the signature is on the inside of that fold. So again, I write, I fold out and stitch down, and then I sign on the inside. Ad kedei kach, I thought it was on the inside, such that if I unstitched it, then it would be on that front piece of paper. But if that's true, that poses a difficulty. This is a Gemara that we will see in a couple more blot as well. We're 12 lines or so from the bottom. Ahuma kushar. There was a get makushar, the ka'asa l'kame de Rebbe. There was a get makushar with all of its folds and stitchings that was brought in front of Rebbe. Va'amar Rebbe, ein zman bazeh. There's no date. There's no time. That's a psul in a document. We need to know a time frame. Could have been from the 1950s. Could be from 2020. You gotta talk to me. I don't know which one it is. And Amar le Reb Shimon berebi leRebbe. Reb Shimon's son said, Shema ben Ksharav Muvla. Perhaps the signature is literally swallowed, but literally what it means, but conceptually what it means is that it's inside the bubble of paper that we stitched. So palye, they untied the get, and v'chazye, they saw it. Now, what did they see on the inside there? They only saw the zman. V'im isa, that Rav Huna meant that the signatures were inside the folds, then v'im isa, then Rebbe's line should have said ein zman bazeh ve'ein edim bazeh miboile. It should have had both, but it didn't. So clearly, we see from Rebbe's question. It's amazing what we can learn from a question, not Rebbe's conclusion. Just from Rebbe's question, we see that the signature was not on the inside of the fold. So Amar Lei misavris ben kesher lekesher migavoy. You're a balabas. You're asking balabata shakasha. He says, no, you think that the signature, according to Rav Huna, is on the inside of the fold. Lo, ben kesher lekesher me'avroy. That really the signature is on the outside. So if the page bubbles out, the signature is not on the inside of that bubble, such that if you were to open the stitches, it would be on the front page. No, it's on the outside of the bubble. That's where the signature is, on the outside of the fold. Says the Gemara, "V'nechush dilma zayif v'kasav ma'ideboy v'chasim esade." If the signatures are on the back, so then I could add a lot to the front of the document, and no one would ever be the wiser. How would you then know that the document was done being written? So says the Gemara, the reason we know is because of the word sharir v'kayam. this is something that we have in our ksuba today. Yeah, all of our ksubas have this hakol sharir v'kayam. The last words that are written are sharir v'kayam. And then what's the next words? Ne'um. Who's the signature number one, right? Why? Sharir v'kayam is I hereby verify and support that this document is correct. I says the Gemara. That's great, but v'nechlush dilma kasav ma'ideboy v'hader kasav sharir v'kayam achrina. All right, but I'll add an addendum. I'll add another paragraph. I'll add a PS, a postscript, and then I'll just sign it with another sharir v'kayam. So says the Gemara, that won't happen. Chad sharir v'kayam kasvinon, trey sharir v'kayam lo kasvinon. Our documents, we allow for one sharir v'kayam. We do not allow for two. So basically, anything that's written in a document before the words sharir v'kayam is binding, and then the signatures reflect everything that's written prior to sharir v'kayam, which is why in our ksubas, the last words in the ksuba is called sharir v'kayam. Very halachic. I didn't know this until today. I learned this when I was today years old, as they say. I just figured, I didn't know that. Hakol sharir v'kayam has to be the last part of the ksuba, because that way the signatures verify everything that's before the words sharir v'kayam. And you're not allowed to add a sharir v'kayam in the postscript. Only one sharir v'kayam per document.
What's shiur mean?
Strong. I think the word literally means strong. I hope that's correct. What does it say in the English? Does anybody know? Sharir v'kayam? Maybe from the word yashar? I should have looked that one up. I don't know. I mean, we know its intent. I just don't know the translation of the word, so we'll have to find it.
The proof that that's the end. It's like a big period at the end. So
Yeah.
Because my shiur does.
Yeah, it's the
I don't know what it really means, but
I mean, kayam we know.
but it basically is tantamount to
Sarara. No, it's from the word sarara, which means authority. It's authoritative. That's what it means. Now that I'm thinking about it. So sharir v'kayam. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. It's the same idea. Although sarara is with a sin. No, sorry. Sharir is not. It's with a shin. Okay. Firm and established. So says the Gemara. Wait 1 second. Wait. Okay, we're 2 lines from the bottom. Maybe the person who's a trickster, the Ramai, will erase the last 2 words or the last 3 words I call shar v'kayam. He'll scratch it off like on a cloth on a Sefer Torah and parchment. What Sofrim do is they take like a scalpel and they gently scrape against it, removing thin layers, very, very thin layers of ink, preferably without moving much of the parchment. That's how they do that. So maybe they'll scratch away, they'll call shar v'kayam, he'll write whatever he wants. And then v'hadar cost of shar v'kayam. Says the Gemara, that doesn't work. Because ha'amar of Yochanan, tluya mekuyemes kshera. If there's a word that's hanging, that's kosher. So we do this in our language. Let's say we have a handwritten letter and we forget a word. So we put a little caret in, and then we write the word that's missing above and in between the 2 words that we forgot to put the word in between them. That's what we do. So says the Gemara, that's absolutely allowed. But turning to the top of Kuf Samach Aleph Amar Aleph, but Machak Pasal Ve'afal Pi Shemekuyam. But if we see that there's something that's erased, so that erasure ruins the document. What does it mean? It ruins the whole document. V'lo amru Machak Pasal al b'makam shar v'kayim uchashir shar v'kayim. You're allowed to erase other things. But if in the place of the document where we would have anticipated sharir v'kayim, it's scratched out, and if the volume of number of letters that are scratched out is shin, resh, yud, resh, 4, and 4, 8 letters, then we say, this is shady, this is too much. And then we say, mochak paslik, then you're not allowed to do it. That's what the Gemara says. So all of these were questions against Rav Huna, and Rav Huna seems to now have a shita that indicates that he signs all the way on the back, but that it's not a problem because we have sharir v'kayam. So this is Rav Huna. Signatures on the back. It's not inside the fold. It's on the outside of the fold, literally on the back of the paper as the paper bulges out in the fold. But we know we don't have anything to worry about because it's sharir v'kayam. Now let's turn our questioning, our interrogation to Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Well, the Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, the Amar Achore Aksav Uchneged Aksav Mi Bachutz, according to the sheet of Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, who says that the signatures are on the back side of the document against the text. Leichosh dil maksiv mi gavoy my deboy umachtem sadi yisere me avroi. Maybe you could write whatever you want on the front, and we can have Adim sign on the back. V'amar ana l'rabos be'edim hu da'avdi. I just like having a lot of Adim, but really, let's say you had two Adim now, or three Adim, now you have two more. The first three were to verify the first part of the document. I added new information. Perhaps if I'm a trickster, that's a great way to edit a get makushar. So Amar le mi sabris Adim kisidron chasimi. Are you under an assumption that they're signing like on the horizontal plane, which is what we do in a ksuba? Says the Gemara, no way. Adim mimata lemala chasima. Adim are signing vertically. So if I'm holding a document like this and it says, Hillel Pinchas ben Shmuel Mordechai, he said to his wife, Harei ad mekudeshes li k'das Moshe v'Yisrael, l'adav v'sulta, whole document. So instead of the Adim signing on the horizontal, they're signing on the back, vertical. Because they start writing their name on the bottom line. You can't add text. So let's say there's 10 lines. So from the 10th line on the front side, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Through the paper, I can see that. I start writing, I'm an aide, my name is Ruvain ben Yaakov. I write upwards, Ruvain ben Yaakov. The resh from Ruvain ben Yaakov is on the bottom line. So if you were to add more lines on the front, I'd know. Because the Adim started their signatures vertically on the back from the 10th line going up. So they were signing upwards on the piece of paper.
And all of that is just, on the line.
Well, this was talking about a get makushar. This wasn't talking about one of our documents. Our documents are much easier to navigate. Also, we have shiur v'kayim plus edim, so that's sufficient. The shiur v'kayim is the capstone. It's not mentioned in this frame yet, according to Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. We could, but that's only when you're moving from one place to another. And here we're not talking about that. Here we're only talking about the validity of a get makushar and how to build it. And remember, as we spoke about at the very beginning of the parak, the first Rashbam on the parak indicated that even though the name of the parak is get pashut, we don't mean get like gittin. We mean get like shtar, any document. So lav dafka that this is about a get anyways for divorce purposes. So they were signing vertically on the back of the document. V'leichush dilma misram yoreyasa b'shita achrona, v'gaizle l'shita achrona, v'gaizle l'ruven behadeh, umiskasher b'ben Yaakov eid. The Gemara says, brilliant. I didn't like the last line of the document anyways. I'm going to scratch it off. And on the back side, I'll also scratch off Ruvain. So Ruvain writes his name. Let's say his name is two lines long. There's 2 lines at the bottom. This is line 10 and this is line 9. On the back of the page, he writes his name, Ruvain ben Yaakov. So I'm going to erase these 2 lines, scratch off Ruvain, and then what's it going to say on the back? Ben Yaakov. And the last clause, last 2 lines said, and Phil owes this guy $100,000. So I'm going to scratch off what's the last 2 lines, lines 9 and 10. I'm going to scratch off Ruvain on the back. And instead of saying Ruvain ben Yaakov, it's just going to say Ben Yaakov. And that works. How do we know that works? Ditnan, 5 lines from the bottom. Ben ish ploni eid kosher. Beautiful. So the Gemara says that we know that this does work because we have a Mishnah Mefureshes in Maseches Gittin that if you don't have the person's first name, he's just Ben Yaakov, that's a valid aid. So says the Gemara, don't worry. Dichsiv Ruvain ben b'chadara. The words Ruvain and Ben covered the first line, and the Yaakov Eid Ilave. And the words Yaakov Eid were above that. So let's say, I'm going to change my case a little bit. Let's say there were 3 lines that were erased. The words Ruvain and Ben corresponded to lines 9 and 10. So if you wanted to erase lines 9 and 10 on the front side, and then on the back side, on the vertical axis, you're erasing the name Ruvain Ben, all you're left with is the grandfather's name. And that is not kosher. So that's what the Gemara says. We had wanted to say that maybe we could erase the Ruvain and it would say Ben, it would say Ben Yaakov, but that's not how it's structured. It was Ruvain Ben on the right lines against opposite the lines that you're erasing. And only Yaakov on the last line. Says the Gemara, V'leichush dilma gaiz le Ruvain Ben, Mizkasher Yaakov Eid. We have another Mari Makom that says even if you erase the Yaakov, the Ruvain Ben, and all that's left is Yaakov Eid, perhaps that's also kosher ditnan, because we have another Mishnah in Maseches Gittin Pei Zayin, Ish Ploni Eid, kosher. Yaakov 8 should be kosher. So perhaps if lines 9 and 10 were very incriminating lines, or I should say they make my life difficult. So I take my scalpel, I very carefully scratch off lines 9 and 10. I turn over the back of the page and I also erase Ruvain Ben. And what's left? Yaakov 8. So that should work. So says the Gemara, you're right, it would work. But here we have an ukimta, to loksiv 8. One possibility is that it just said Yaakov and they didn't write the word 8. What does that teach me about the word aid? That if the word aid is missing, it's possible that the edus is not chal. It's possible. That's what it seems like from the Gemara. Or it's possible as well that really it does say Yaakov aid on the back of the document. However, the adinon ba the hachasimos yada lav de Yaakov, or we recognize the handwriting. People used to write a lot more with pen and paper back in the day because they had no other method. Tonight we had Sheva Brachos tonight. I was telling everyone I use an iPad. My brother was saying he uses a notebook. Jeremy, my brother-in-law, was saying he uses his phone. Everybody has their methods to write. Very few people are using a pen. It's very rare. I use an Apple Pro pencil on my iPad, which is it's writing, but it's not writing pen and paper, but it's recognizable as my handwriting. So says the Gemara that okay, it could be that Yaakov alone could be Edus. It could have been Yaakov Eid would have been kosher, but we know the handwriting wasn't his. Maybe says the Gemara that when I signed Hillel Pinchas Ben Shmuel Mordechai, they scratched off Hillel Pinchas Ben, and it is talking about me. It is me. But it just says Shmuel Mordechai Eid. So says the Gemara, no. Lo shavik inish shmei didei v'chasim b'shmei de'avua. If somebody asks me to sign, I'm not going to sign with my father's name. I'm going to sign with my own name. That's how people function. Perhaps a son might use his father's unique stempel, his unique signature that isn't a name but perhaps an image. To harav tzayer kavra. Rav, when he would sign things, would make it in the shape of a fish. Reb Chanina tzayer charusa. He would be mitzayer a charusa, which is a palm tree. Rav Chizda, because he had a samech, he would write samech. Rav Hoshaya, because he had an ayin, would write ayin. Rava bar Rav Huna makusa. He would draw the mast of a ship. It says the Gemara, perhaps a son could sign like that on behalf of his father, on behalf of himself. He would use his father's image. So says the Gemara, no one will do that. There's a shtickle chutzpah in that of writing an image that your father would have used. Again, hard to really appreciate because we don't really do things like that. Although some of our signatures, sometimes we see people sign things and they're Ma'inin Shmita Eitzel Har Sinai. Their signature looks nothing like any language. It just looks like a scribble. There's no identifiable characters. Legally binding. You could sign away all your money. You could make $1 billion. It is unidentifiable as to what you're saying, what you're writing. And lastly, for the day, Mar Zutra Amar, Lama Loch Kulehai. What is going on here? You have multiple Eidim signing, right? Kol Mekushar, She'ein Eidav Kalin B'shita Achas, puzzle. All the Eidim have to sign on the first, starting vertically on the back of the page. Remember, we're within the camp of Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Everybody has to sign on the very back page, on the back of the page, from the very bottom line. All of the Eidim have to sign from the very bottom. To be Mazayev, to forge a star like that is very, very difficult. So he feels, Mar Zutra feels that all of the previous dialogue about Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba goes away, and the document will be easy to identify as kosher, provided that the vertical signatures on the back of the document against the horizontal writing, if all of the Eidim sign properly from the very bottom line, then everything would be verified. We'll stop right here. Emir Tashem will pick up tomorrow night with Daf Kuf Samach Beis, particularly short blot. Maybe we'll jump ahead a little bit tomorrow just to make the week a little bit easier. Wishing you all a beautiful night.